Welcome to the Osmo Early Bird Podcast. It's your old pal Emac coming to you with one Adam Ship, my money share, as we get you ready for a Wednesday. Some would call it Hump Day, the camel's favorite day, if you like old Geico commercials. But what do we got here, Adam? We've got a multi-split slate. We've got a 1 o'clock game. Yeah, you'll hear about that on the DFS strategy show. Same thing with the 6 o'clock games. We're going to focus in on the 3 games at 3 o'clock, and then we'll hit the main slate for you. There's a $100,000 top prize pool contest on each of the big sites, it looks like. So we're going to get you covered on that one. And then we'll hit the pitching on the late slate and get you on out of here and hopefully on your way to work. Adam, what do you got going on? Anything exciting? Any sweats this early in the night yet?
Decent start to the night. I ended up, once ownership projections on Houston skyrocketed, I ended up underweight on Houston, but really heavy on the Cardinals, really heavy on the Brewers, who both have 5 runs in the first 2 innings. And then I have some Kansas City stacks that are getting going now. My night will probably come down to, I unfortunately ended up with massive amounts of Brett Anderson on DraftKings, and also a healthy amount of Joe Musgrove in a spot that really scares me. So, decent start for my night. Had overweight on Chris Sale, which is nice also, but still a ways to go.
Yeah, well, hopefully the Mariners used up. They had 5 solo shots last night, which would be Monday night. We, of course, are recording this on Tuesday, as you guys have probably figured out. But what a night by them. They have allowed the most runs in the league and scored the most runs in the league. They are now sitting at a minus 11 run differential, Adam. I want to see how long this continues.
Yeah.
Because that's almost impossible unless, of course, you're the Rockies or Texas. But we'll have to see what happens here with the Mariners. But let's look at this 3-gamer. On the early one, we've got, oh gosh, do we even have all the announced pitchers yet? No, we don't. We've got Domingo Germán, Chris Archer coming off the DL. You've got Zach Greinke, Baltimore. Not entirely sure what they're doing. They are also playing, because it's the doubleheader, because they got rained out back-to-back days. So they're doing a twilight doubleheader, a 3:05 and a 6:35 there in New York. And then we'll have to see what Toronto and do the sites have Toronto and Baltimore, or Toronto and San Francisco up?
What do you mean the
for
line?
Pitchers? Yeah.
Sean Anderson should be going for San Francisco. Don't know about Toronto.
Okay. All right. Well, let's break down the pitchers we do know about. Anybody pop in there for you? Perhaps Domingo Germán going against your Baltimore Orioles.
I'm seeing J.A. Happ as the pitcher for the 3 o'clock game.
You can't trust ESPN for anything anymore, can you?
So, Happ, I think, is decent. Not a terrible spot against Baltimore. Not a great spot, but for a 3-game slate, perfectly fine. I think Zach Greinke is obviously the best pitcher on the slate. He's expensive, but not, exorbitantly or anything like that. Has a decent matchup against a Pirates team that doesn't strike out a lot, but also doesn't have a ton of power. I think that there's probably enough cheap hitting on this slate because of having, the Giants and the Blue Jays and the Orioles that you can get the Greinke pretty easily.
All right, here's what we got here. So this is looking at MLB MLB Baseball, MLB.com. Their starting lineups page. David Hess sounds like he's probably going to be for the Orioles. You are correct. Now we have at least 2 independent sources that are saying J.A. Happ. We've got Chris Archer coming off the DL. He's been out with the last 2 weeks with thumb inflammation. Zach Greinke, as you mentioned, and then it's still TBD here for the Blue Jays and Giants, even on this site. I agree with you. There's a good chance it should be Sean Anderson, and they just haven't listed him because there hasn't been. I think he's getting called up, right? I'm sorry, I was trying to find something. Did you?
Sean Anderson pitching for the Giants.
Okay, so there's a chance. Sometimes they won't put it up until the transactions officially happen because, hashtag nobody looks at the internet anymore. But, sorry, MLB.com is about a half step ahead of ESPN at this point. But in any event, that's your pitching. It's on the two pitcher sites. Here, it can be a little tough on these three gamers because you're playing a full third of the field here. So do not be afraid to go against convention. Look for some direct leverage by looking at some of the players that perhaps others will not, especially in these giant contests. And you need to think of it as money that you are willing to wave goodbye to, because the top heavy tournaments there, yikes, the payout curve, no bueno. No bueno, but that's all right. We've got a full main slate here. So we'll look at this one at a little bit more leisurely pace here, Adam. We'll just kind of throw out some pictures here. We'll talk about them. We'll see what your initial hot takes are. Looking at it, starting off, we've got Wilmer Font, who was traded to the Mets. He's going to be going into Washington, taking on the Nationals. They've got Pat Corbin. Gio Gonzalez is going to be going against the Phillies. Got Jake Arrieta returning the favor against the Brew Crew. Jose Urena will be going against the Tampa Bay Rays, which is an intriguing spot for both sides on that one. Herman Marquez going against Boston in Boston. Eduardo Rodriguez going against the Rockies. As we've seen with Chris Sale, you want to pick on the Rockies when they are out of Colorado. Justin Verlander will be going against his old mates there up in Detroit. That's a nice one. You've got Waka and Soroka for the Braves. Jorge Lopez, Mike Minor, and then wrapping it up, you've got Matthew Strom and Kenta Maeda. Let's see. At first look, the guys standing out to me are Maeda, Verlander, of course, 11,000, and then I'm good with Eduardo Rodriguez, and I'm okay with Jose Urena at 5,300. That'll help us move some parts around and work in some top pitching or some top hitters. Start at the top here for me, Adam. What do you like here on the expensive pitchers?
Yeah, pretty nice spot for Patrick Corbin against a Mets team that most of their good hitters are left-handed. Obviously, Peter Alonso, the exception to that. Wilson Ramos is fine from the right side, but you're not really that concerned about guys like J.D. Davis or Ahmed Rosario or Juan Lagares if he's in there. And Corbin, we know, is really good against right and left-handed pitchers, or right and left-handed hitters. So really like Corbin. Think the price tag is reasonable for him. You get Justin Verlander as the most expensive pitcher on the slate, facing the Tigers. Obviously a really, really good spot for Verlander going back to Detroit. I think that he's probably where you would want to get to, at least in cash games. In tournaments, I don't think you lose a whole lot ceiling-wise, taking the savings to Corbin. So those two, really stand out in their matchups.
Sorry, I had a little speaker go off on the page that I had buried in my tabs.
All good.
Back to you.
So, those two really stand out in their spots. In tournaments, if you're looking to get creative, obviously, Herman Marquez at 9K, facing the Red Sox, really tough matchup, but he is outside of Coors. He is a really good pitcher, and you're getting him discounted probably, I would guess, at low ownership because of how much respect people have for the Red Sox. And then you have Kenta Maeda at home against a right-handed heavy Padres team. We know that his numbers are much, much better against righties than lefties. So a pretty loaded top end of the pitching spectrum, because I didn't even mention Mike Minor in a decent spot against Kansas City.
All right. Gosh, Adam, this is just, I don't know what to do with this slate. It's kind of all over the board here on these. Let's just hit on a few specific matchups. Now, there's a decent chance that we're going to see Jalen Beeks come in as the secondary pitcher here for Tampa Bay, as they are taking on fellow Floridians, the Miami Marlins, in Miami. So we're going to get Beeks likely going against the pitcher, 7,600. What are your thoughts on that? Because I've heard both you and Lofty talk about him at different times, and you guys have liked him, but there's always a but.
I think it's relatively appealing on this slate if we do get confirmation that it's going to be Beeks, because for one, the matchup is as good as it gets going against Miami in Miami, but also for all the pitching that we just talked about at the top, it's a really dead mid-range because you only have 16 pitchers on the slate. A number of them are expensive. And then you run into guys like Jake Arrieta, Wilmer Font, Gio Gonzalez, guys in that mid-range, Mike Waka against Atlanta that really just aren't that appealing. Matt Strahm, another one against the Dodgers. So I think that there's less opportunity cost, because that's normally what keeps me away from Beeks now that his price tag is higher, is the fact that he has to be efficient and pitch well. to really pay off that price tag, but there are less options there. From a roster construction standpoint, my first goal would be to get two of those, good pitchers at the top that we talked about. And I think that there's certainly merit to getting to someone like Jose Urena at a cheap price tag against Tampa Bay. But there's certainly going to be builds where you end up in that mid-range for your SP2. And I don't think that, any SP2 in that range stands out head and shoulders above Beeks.
All right, and I'm just looking up here. There's a little ESPN has, or not ESPN, DK has Matt Hall potentially listed as a starter here. He's in the minors right now for Detroit. There's a couple people that have mentioned it on Twitter, but it looks like it's just some fans talking about it. Interesting. Do you know much about, I'm giving you a chance to look him up, Matt Hall?
I do not. Pulling his stuff up now on Fangraphs. I do know that if he does pitch, he's facing Houston, so I'm not rostering him.
But I'm thinking, how much Houston do we want? Sorry, I should have completed that.
Right.
Thought.
Yeah. So at AAA this year, he's made 7 appearances, 5 starts, 31 and 2/3 innings. He struck out 28.3% of hitters, walked 6.9%. He made 5 relief appearances for the Tigers last year. He was not good. He struck out 10.4% of hitters. He had an xFIP of 5.27, which obviously those stats don't matter at all, but just pointing them out. He's been good at AAA, but pretty brutal landing spot if he does indeed come up here, and I would still be looking to Houston.
All right, and I that one it just kind of caught my eye because I saw somebody mention the Toledo Mud Hens, which always makes me laugh because that's an amusing. I don't know what a mud hen is, but it just is an amusing nickname. Back to more irrelevant guys on this slate. If you were going to be kind of ranking, I don't like the word safe, but if you were going to be ranking you're the better guys, I think as you led off with, it's got to be Corbin, Verlander, and Maeda. How are you feeling about San Diego with their power-packed lineup? Mostly righties that have the power, but this is a much changed team than what we are used to seeing over the last couple of years. Not just with Manny Machado in there, but Franmil Reyes is getting a lot better. Why am I blanking on his name? Renfroe is getting much better. They don't have as many heavy K guys in the lineup like Ryan Schimpf or who was that fast guy that they had, the lefty Jankowski that never did anything. This is an entirely different lineup, so we want to treat it as such. But is this one where you're giving some consideration to Maeda, especially thinking that over each of their last 4 starts, everybody in the rotation, or at least when I had done the show on Saturday, everybody in the rotation for the Dodgers had gone at least, with the exception of Maeda, had gone at least 90 to 96 pitches in their previous 4 starts, and Maeda's gone 84 and 86, which are high water marks for him. It feels like or higher than normal for him. It feels like Dave Roberts may be relaxing a little bit on his quick hook.
Yeah, and as far as the Padres go, they are a more dangerous team than we've seen in the past. They have power now, but there are still a lot of strikeouts there. Reyes will strike out, Renfroe strikes out, Myers strikes out, Hedges strikes out. Machado's a tough strikeout, so is Hosmer. But outside of that, still not a low strikeout team. And you see that, if you look at their active roster against right-handed pitching this season, I'm pulling it up now, but last I checked, I think they were second to Toronto in strikeout percentage against righties. So there is still plenty of upside there for Maeda. He does have much better strikeout stuff against righties, and he also does a better job of limiting damage from right-handed hitters. So it is a nice matchup for him. I would still put him behind Corbin and Verlander just because of, for one, I think that they're both just, a little bit better, a little bit more consistent, but also they both are going to be allowed to go deeper into the game. You would expect, like if Maeda's pitching well, Corbin's pitching well, and Verlander's pitching well, you're getting 100 plus pitches from Verlander. You're getting 100 plus from Corbin. You're hoping you get like 94 from Maeda, and that makes a little bit of a difference there. Just got the numbers pulled up. San Diego against right-handed pitching this season is tied for second with the Blue Jays, 25.7% strikeout percentage, behind the Tigers, who of course are facing Justin Verlander.
This schedule feels about like a Saturday because they've got a 1 o'clock game to 3 o'clocks, 2 6s, 2, 4, 6, 7 7 o'clock games, 1 8 o'clock game, and 1 lonely 10 o'clock game out there. So that's kind of funny how spread out they are. Looking at our 8 o'clock game, we do have Jorge Lopez here. He's checking in at $5,000. At this point, I'm just kind of seeing if there's anybody that seems to be reasonably competitive against Jose Urena as a potential SP2. Are you thumbs up or thumbs down on Jorge Lopez going against the Texas Rangers here?
I prefer Urania because of the park. There are strikeouts in the Texas lineup. There's also a lot of really good hitters. I think Lopez is a pretty mediocre pitcher. I think basically the entire logic that you would apply to Jose Urania applies to Lopez with the exception of the park. It's not as pitcher friendly, but he's facing a team that has strikeouts, has a lot of power. He's a pretty average pitcher, but he's probably a little bit cheaper than he should be. I mean, just go back to the beginning of the podcast when we were talking about Tuesday's slate and the massive amounts of Brett Anderson I have. It's just because he was $5,600. You get the same thing here with Lopez at $5K, with Urania at $5,300. They don't need to be very good to give you a satisfactory score as long as the hitters that you're paying up for do what they're supposed to do.
Yeah, and that's a good way to kind of measure the trade-off. If your guy survives, if Lopez, if Anderson gets you 9 to 11 points, not going to kill you, but if the upgraded stack you're able to gets you an additional 25 or 30 points, it was worth it. And that's kind of what you got to in my mind. I think that's how you have to think about this as the trade-off. So, do you feel safer and warm and fuzzy going with Maeda or Corbin or whomever it may be? Yes, probably, but then your bats are going to be left wanting just a little bit on this one. Does Gio Gonzalez going against the Philadelphia Phillies, that just does not feel like a good spot for him at all.
Yeah, not a great spot because you do have a lot of right-handed power on the Phillies, a lot of guys that'll work deep in the counts. Gonzalez is still just, an enigma. Like he's been so hit or miss. Sometimes it looks like he's turning a corner and figures something out and has high upside. Other times it doesn't. He started to turn things around last year when he went to the Brewers. Him going back there, I think, is probably good. But through his first 3 starts, he's faced the Mets twice and the Cubs once. Against the Mets, he had an 11 and 11.5 swinging strike percentage, a 33.3 and a 37.3% chase percentage, both really good. But that didn't carry over to his start against the Cubs when he had just an 8.9% swinging strike percentage and a 27% chase percentage. So, still, I think the book is still out on him. Again, the mid-range is pretty wide open here. So if you're ending up in that range, I think that Gio is fine, but it's not a spot that, I'm comfortable with or anything like that.
Do you know he gives up, I'm eyeballing this, in his career, 156 home runs allowed in 1,830 innings. So that's about every 11 and a half innings. After having watched him with the Nationals for 6 years, it certainly feels like he gives up a lot more home runs than that. That's like nothing.
Yeah, it definitely does.
That's wild. Now should I second source that? Can I trust the ESPN player card? But wow, if you would have asked me to guess, I would have said, he's probably got a career home run per 9 combined, 1.1, 1.15, maybe. No, it's much less than that. Oh man, I love baseball. Let's just pick a couple other opinions here from you, and then are you on Wednesdays now? Is that your day on the DFS strategy show in the mornings?
Yeah, I'm on Wednesdays with Josh.
Excellent. I've lost track of everything. I go back into the working world here, and I only catch you guys about every third day. So
yeah, I'm Monday, Wednesday, Friday.
Okay, there you go. And I noticed that Josh gets a couple days off with Jake working in. So
yeah,
good for him. All right, let me get back to the page here. Soroka, yeah, I don't think I want to go there. But the thoughts on him facing a very righty lineup. He's had some intriguing starts thus far this season. He has not yet allowed a home run. Now, granted, he has only gone, of course, I closed that page. He's only gone 29.2 innings, but he's allowed just 4 runs. The 11 walks, not great, the 31 strikeouts, just more than one per inning. That's an interesting spot. If he was 7,800, we'd be gushing over him. He's 8,800 going against the Redbirds. Any thoughts on him?
I like Soroka as a pitcher. It's a scary spot against a really good Cardinals team, and it's just tough for me to get to him on this slate because if you're going for guys in good matchups with a lot of upside, you have Verlander and Corbin. If you're going for talent, you have Herman Marquez, in a tough spot, and you have Maeda there too in a good spot. So it's really tough for me to get to Soroka against the Cards.
All right. Eduardo Rodriguez, he has 7 starts. How many of his starts have ended with more than 22 DraftKings points?
What was the question?
Eduardo Rodriguez, 7 starts. How many has he had 20 or more DK points?
2.
4.
Okay.
26 against Seattle in his last one. 23 against the White Sox the start before that. Then it was 11 against the White Sox. 26 against Detroit. Tampa Bay got to him. He only got 13. Then 29 against Baltimore. And then, of course, -6 against Oakland. 3 against Seattle the first time he started the season. Those are some eye-popping numbers. His recent form is really good. But what do you think about the Rockies on the road going against this Boston Red Sox lefty? Not the Chris Sale version of their lefties.
No, I mean, I like Rodriguez for the same reasons I like Sale. Obviously, he's not Sale. But I like the spot for him. He just pretty much has to navigate Story and Arenado. It will come down to what the lineup looks like for Colorado, though. If you get, like Blackman, Murphy in there, if you get Murphy in there, it cuts down the strikeouts. The lineup they ran against Sale had Tapia, David Dahl, both 30-plus strikeout percentage guys. So I'll definitely – my interest in Rodriguez depends on the Rockies lineup.
All right. Well, I think with that, we got you covered here. On our bit of abbreviated podcast here, we had some scheduling snafus, so we're jumping in to get this one covered for you. But no worries. You got us the rest of the week, plus you got 3 hours of shows. Well, let's see. Josh is involved, so you probably have 4 hours worth of shows tomorrow, which would be Wednesday. Starting off at 9:30, you get the DFS MLB Strategy Show. At 5 o'clock, you will get the Deeper Dive, and then at 6 o'clock, Live Before Lock. We've got you covered. We got content behind the paywall. We're doing a couple things in front of the paywall. Don't forget to try out our buddies over there at Yahoo. If you've not yet signed up for Yahoo, use the promo code OSMO to get $30 in Yahoo Sports Rewards points with your first DF deposit. They will match you up to your first $30. You can go to any of the Spotlight Hitters articles, Spotlight Hitters and Stacks articles on the homepage. Those are free. Second paragraph has the link for you to get out over there and get yourself a Yahoo deposit bonus courtesy of Yahoo and Awesemo.com. With that, you can follow Adam at ShipMyMoneyDFS. I am at EMACDFS. And of course, it is Awesemo_COM. With that, gamers, good luck.